Sometimes you've got all the strategies, all the tools for beating anxiety right up until panic or overwhelm comes along, and then whoomph, all best laid plans go out the window and you are stuck in it. Well, what if I told you there were a few simple, practical things that will quickly stop anxiety attacks in their track and help you get back to clear thinking again? Stuff that surprises many clients with just how effective they are, and I'm going to share them with you right now. So the first strategy is one that's just a physiological brain hack. No positive thinking is needed, no just having to believe it will work, just a little neuroscience in action. And there are two things to know to understand what's happening. One, when anxiety occurs, there are a bunch of neurons on the right side of the brain that go a little chaotic, sending the alarm signals of heightened threat to the body. Two, there are two sides of the brain, the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere, and we are cross-wired. So the left hemisphere of the brain controls the right-hand side of the body, and the right hemisphere of the brain controls the left-hand side of the body. So knowing this, if we take a small item like a ball, a mobile phone, or even a bottle, and you pass it back and forwards across the middle of your body, we're forcing the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere to organize and work together better. This competes with the anxiety messaging that's stuck on one side, so the anxiety messages get reduced. It's like anxiety is trying to send a message, but the competing action you're doing is blocking the messaging road with traffic, so the anxiety messages don't get through in the same way. Some people say it's just distraction, and sure, there may be an element of that here as well, but there is some neuroscience going on here, which means it does almost work a little like magic. In fact, a number of years ago, I was working as the lead psychological presenter with Virgin Atlantic on their Flying Without Fear program, where every month or so, I'd speak to 100 terrified flyers, share with them some strategies and tools to overcome their fear of flying, and then I'd get on a plane with them. So I always joke, I've got to be good at what I do because I don't want to be on a plane with 100 people freaking out. And on one occasion, as we went through the airport, a shuttle bus came to pick us up to take us to the boarding gate. And one of the people I was with started freaking out. I'm feeling okay about the flight now, but I'm terrified of shuttle buses. Honestly, you can't make this stuff up. At this point, we can't be separated. We need to stay as a group. But everyone gets on the shuttle and this person refuses, and I have about 1 minute to help before the doors shut without them on board. So I gave her my bottle of water and told her to pass it back and forwards. And they did it. And I watched the heightened anxiety melt away, and they kept that going and they stepped on board. The point here is this: it works really well and definitely worth having this tool in your wheelhouse. Number two, the caveman technique. Imagine this. It's thousands of years ago. You're sitting outside your cave, surveying the land, and you're just gazing, seeing everything out there, not paying attention to anything in particular. Well, this is the way of looking out that is telling the body there is no particular threat to pay attention to. Just gazing out, sun beating down on the face. But if you suddenly saw movement, caveman brain would go, what's that? Could be a saber-toothed tiger. And you'd instinctively move from that wide open gazing to narrow focused attention to that thing that moved. And that narrow focused attention way of looking is communicating to your body, perhaps there's a threat. And so chances are more stress hormones are released and cue anxiety. But here's the cool part. If we know that this goes on, we can hack the mind and body and use this in reverse in times of heightened anxiety. And I have noticed that when people are doing panic and overwhelm, they do become very stuck in narrow focus, like their brain is stuck on one thought or one idea. And so try this. Play the game right now of, whilst looking at the screen, shift your awareness further and further out so that you can notice things at both edges of your vision. So even whilst I'm looking at the camera right now, I can also notice that I can be aware of my microwave at the edge of my vision on the right. And on the left, I can notice the whiteboard on my wall. And as I practice moving into wide open vision, we call this peripheral vision. It's literally telling the body that there's no specific threat, and so it's okay for me to feel calmer and relaxed. It brings the body right down from that heightened anxious state. And some people also discover as they do this that the chatter inside their head goes quieter and racing thoughts slow down and even stop. So play around with this and let me know how you get on. And speaking of internal chatter, what if there were an even more direct way of quietening down that internal chatter in the mind? Number three, You know, sometimes if you're stuck in panic, overwhelm, or anxiety, that racing internal dialogue that goes, I can't breathe. What if I die? I'm going to faint. I can't cope. What if, what if, what if? Well, here's a hack for quietening it down, and it's surprisingly simple and easy to do. You simply let your mouth drop open a little and focus on relaxing the jaw and your tongue. The theory is that when you have racing internal dialogue, people are often sub-vocalizing the words. In other words, slightly mouthing the words that they're thinking with their tongue. It's a bit like when people read, they often hear themselves reading it aloud in their head like an inner narrator. And if they stuck tongue probes on you at that very moment, well, you'd find it very distracting. Sorry. If they stuck probes on your tongue at that moment, they'd likely see movements in the tongue associated with you making the words you were reading. But when you open your mouth a little and relax the tongue, you can't move the tongue in quite the same way, and for many, this small but simple shift can just halt internal dialogue. So play around with that. And of course, number 4 is simply a combination of all of the above. Yes, you don't just have to take these ideas we have covered so far and do them individually. You could play around with them and stacking them, combining them. For example, as you pass something back and forward across your midline, you could also relax your jaw and bring your awareness to the edges of your vision, all at the same time. So play around with all of these tools in various combinations so that you have some simple, practical things that work if panic and overwhelm were to strike. And yes, that's all very well and good to have these firefighting techniques at your disposal for when those panic attack moments appear, but let's be honest, you can't walk around the whole time flinging a bottle back and forward with your jaw hanging down. So how do you break through anxiety so that it doesn't even really come up at all? And anxiety attacks become a thing of the past entirely. Well, after 10,000 hours of client work with anxious people, let me share with you in this video here the 3 anxiety breakthroughs that can help you become free of anxiety for good.